Well, Chef Babette, we are so excited to have you on the Sakara Life podcast. Welcome.
Thank you.
We like to start off every podcast with the same question, which is, what is your mission here on
Oh,
Earth? Yeah, what are you here to do, give, share, teach?
experiences. I think that's why we're here and we go through this journey called life, and it's nothing but a giant experience, and we learn from each and every experience. And I think the information should be shared. I really do, and so that's what I do. That's what makes me feel good.
You've had so many experiences over the course of your life. I mean, many experiences that were terribly difficult, I'm sure. And seeing how you've come through it all is really inspiring. And I want to get into that today. But can you take us back kind of to the beginning and tell us about your story and how you got here?
Well, born in 1950, my mother was an incredible spirit. She third grade education, sharecroppers, born in 1916, North Carolina, and had a third grade education. She could barely read or write, but she was ambitious, thoughtful, loving, had a lot of energy, and she wanted to work for hers. She was that kind of woman. It was just about, I don't need your welfare. I don't need any of that stuff. Just let me just work for mine. And she would work 2 and 3 jobs. So that required sitters. I was born in 1950. My brother was 10 years older than myself, but he was a kid that was always in trouble. So I didn't spend a lot of time with my older brother. And my younger sister was 5 years younger than myself. So the very first time that I was ever, I would say, misused, that I can remember, I was 5 years old, and there was a babysitter that my mother that used to come to our home, and my mother would go do what she had to do and leave my younger sister, who was still in the crib, and myself with this woman. Well, some man came into the house, and I found that it was her son. I have no idea how old this person was, but I'm only 5. So a teenager looks like an adult to a 5-year old. And so he came up to my bedroom. He just was pretty disgusting with me. And that was the very first time that I was sexually misused. The next time I remember something like that, my mother, it was some years later, and my mother remarried. And her husband was a fondler. And it was me he chose to do those things with. I was, man, I'm telling you. And then I had a sitter that my mother would leave me with, my sister and I, with all week. So she was abusive. She was such a mean lady.
I remember you telling a story about her wanting you to go out and sleep with the dog. Can you tell us what was that?
Yes, I mean, this lady was just really cruel. Not only that, she wanted me. She had friends over for dinner, and then afterwards she said, "I need for you to clean up this kitchen." Now I'm only about 8, 7 or 8, something like that. And she goes, "You clean up this kitchen, then I want you to make a pallet and go sleep in the garage with the dog." And thank God for her husband. I'm trying to get the dishes together and putting covers together, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, Godmother wants me to sleep out in the garage with the dog tonight." And he said, "Go to bed. I will take care of these dishes, and don't you ever consider sleeping in the garage with the dog. But there was a time she wanted to punish me and make me wear pants to school. Well, back in the 50s, girls didn't wear pants to school. So whatever she could do to hurt me, that's what she would do.
It seems like hearing these stories, there are two options. You can either follow the dark or you can follow the light. And you
Right.
are, I'm looking at you right now, like I can see your light. You're such a bright light. And how did you find the light amidst all the
You know what?
heartache?
After all of the things that I've been through on this journey, when I became I got introduced to metaphysics back in the 90s, and it just kind of opened my eyes, and I began to understand that this journey is just that. And I am not the only one to experience negative, positive. But what do I do with that information? I came through it all. Do I stay stuck in that? And you understand what I'm saying? I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you can stay in that, but it's not helpful for anybody. I understood that the only time that I truly have is each and every second. And so I consider that time back then, I experienced it. I am who I am today because of everything that I went through. But actually, the most amazing time that I have on this planet is right here, right now. I choose this time rather than hanging out in the past or worrying so much about what may happen tomorrow. So, metaphysics got me through that. I began to learn to meditate and just embrace my now. And it's been
Was
quite
there
a blessing.
was there something that what was your entryway into metaphysics? Or if somebody wants to start learning about that,
You
where
know
can
what
they
I
start if
did?
they're feeling stuck?
I walked into a metaphysical church because Christianity just never really spoke to me the same way. It just didn't feel real enough to me. But when I walked into this church and I heard this person speaking, it all became so personal and so real for me. As it spoke about the oneness, the fact that I am a mere expression of the intelligence that created all of this. I cannot separate myself from that. And that those words just became so real to me. And so, you know, we all have our own way of seeing things. And for me personally, that did it for me. Learning to be quiet and to be still. When I went to Japan to sing, I went over there to sing. I came back knowing that I was going to wind up having a vegan restaurant. And I went to sing. Was not thinking about that. But through the process of being still and quiet and meditating, I brought all of that to my experience. And so I would just say to anybody to just, don't, if you're confused about it, don't stop with one thing. Just seek the information. I was just blessed that I walked into the church called the City of Angels, and it truly was a city of angels. And then I hooked up with Reverend Dr. Beckwith, Agape Spiritual Center. You guys familiar with Agape?
No, but I've heard
Oh,
you talk about it, so I want to
yeah,
look
yeah.
into this place.
Michael Beckwith is pretty amazing, pretty amazing.
And how did plants and food overlap? Did it come around the same time as this metaphysics kind of chapter, or what brought you to food as medicine and why?
I met my current husband. Now, he's number 4. And when I met him, he introduced me to a couple of books, and I share these books. I still share these books because they delivered me Fit for Life by Harvey and Marilyn Diamond and The Mucusless Diet Healing System by Professor Arnold Ehret. I read those books, and it just, quite frankly, completely and totally changed my life. It changed the way that I viewed food. I used to think herbs were only Hare Krishnas took herbs. That's how ignorant I was, seriously. But then once I began to read the books, and especially Fit for Life, Volumes 1, address some of the challenges I experienced eating, because I eat everything. I used to eat chitlins, so that's the intestines of another animal. But once I read Fit for Life, and it started teaching me about the proper combinations of food. Now, it never said you should be vegan or plant-based. It never told me that. It just said, this is how you eat it if you're going to eat it. This is what you combine it with. And as I began to practice that, my goodness, my whole dining experience changed. And the mucusless diet healing system, I had eczema, asthma, I was bloated, I was a hot mess. And once I began to extract a lot of crap from my diet, and in particular, processed foods, I began to feel like a brand new person. Now, here I am, almost 74 years old, and I feel better today than I felt as a child. That's huge.
It's huge.
That's really, really inspiring. I saw you, I think maybe it was on the Tamron Hall show.
Yeah,
Yeah. And you can do an 8-minute plank.
right.
And so, in preparation for this podcast, I decided to try it out myself. I'm like, 8 minutes, if she can do it, I bet I can do that. I did a minute and a half.
But you did a minute and a half. You did a minute and a half. I started like that. And all you do is just add. You just keep on doing it, and you just add more time. And that's the way I did push-ups. Start with one and just add one every day if I can. And that's really, truly the way that I did it.
And what age did you start exercising like this? What age did you start doing push-ups?
I met Ron. I was about to turn 40. I met him in the spring, and in 1990, I was going to be 40 in December. He was going to be 42 in September. And the first date, he takes me to Griffith Park to run these hills at Griffith Park. And I'm thinking, I've never been on a date. And he runs the whole thing backwards. And I'm pretty impressed because I was challenged to walking these hills. And I thought to myself, he's about to be 42. If he can run this thing backwards, I should be able to, even at a walker's pace, but stay in a running mode. And I just got interested in my physical. You understand? I'm understanding, I'm getting ready to understand how to eat food, but physically, I need to strengthen. And then when I learned about self-love and self-care, it was just on and cracking. It was like, okay, it's the whole, I gotta make sure that if I'm 80 years old and I go down, I can get up. If I feel like at 90 stepping in the bathtub and getting out, I can do that. My mother couldn't do that. And I watched her suffer late into her 50s.
I mean, you clearly have this zest for life that is, just contagious even to just be around you. But I think one of the things I'm really curious about, because Whitney and I talk about a lot what happens when we face obstacles, whether personal ones or, ones as founders. So tell me, how do you think of obstacles? What happens when you're faced with an obstacle? What does your brain and mind and heart do?
Do you know what I say to myself a lot? Oh my God, that's funny you asked that question. This too shall pass. Mm-hmm. That is what I feed myself. This too shall pass. No matter how big it is, what the challenge is, I know that this too shall pass. And guess what? It
It
does.
always does.
It always does. You
How do
know,
you
and I do not to get stuck in it,
Yeah.
not to, be swallowed up by it. Just understand that I am free, I am in control, and it will pass.
How do you feel about forgiveness?
Oh,
Like forgiveness for yourself and for those who harmed you in the past? How do you do that?
hey, they become spiritual guides, all those people become teachers. When I run into people with similar personalities, I know I don't want to be there. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And yes, I do forgive you, because if you knew better, you would have done better. If you knew better, you would have done better. It was a part of my journey, a part of my human experience. And I've taken all of that, and now I'm able to be my better self and share. Because there was a time that I had a girlfriend whose daughter, her stepdad, was doing something inappropriate to her. She needed a place to go. I opened my doors to her, and I opened my doors to her because of my experiences. I was able to say, yes, you come here. I will make sure you're safe here. So, there's we none of us get through this thing called life without going through challenges, experience. Hey, it gets really bad for some of us. Really, really bad. When I think, compare what I went through with what these people are going through, it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. I will not wallow in that. I will not use that as an excuse not to be the best person I can be.
I remember an acupuncturist once saying to me, I asked, like, how does she kind of, like, because every time you go to her, me, any of her clients, it's like, what's going on? And you kind of talk about what's wrong. And I'm like, what do you do with all of that suffering? Like, I guess part of their job is to transmute it. And she said, I'm never here to try and fix anything. Like, the human condition is suffering. And at first I was like, well, that's terribly depressing. But then I thought about it and I thought, if you can just know that, and if you can just kind of live that and understand that instead of trying to fight it, because there's something in us, and it might be American culture, but there's something specifically here in America where we're taught that the human condition is happiness. And if you're not constantly happy or joyful or whatever the word is, that something's wrong with you. But instead, if we could kind of come home to, we will suffer. And in that suffering are lessons. In that suffering is heart. In that suffering is connection. In that suffering is our gift. It's like you learn to look at obstacles as opportunities instead of, the thing we're supposed to avoid and put in the corner and be shameful about, et cetera, et cetera.
So beautifully stated. I 1,000% agree. I
It's
totally agree.
I know this was something that I was thinking about with you, Chef Babette, was that just how beautiful your vulnerability is, that you can talk about these moments, being molested, or even, we didn't go into this conversation, but your time on crack. And you talk about things that I think a lot of people would be shameful about, but through your vulnerability, it creates this opportunity for it to be something that you don't have to hold on to and hide. You can let people see it, and it can be cleared, and it can become a powerful part of your story to help other people. I just feel like, I know Danielle and I have had to go work through some of these things of becoming comfortable sharing intimate parts of ourselves. How have you become comfortable, like, sharing these intimate moments of yourself with others and being vulnerable like you are?
I don't feel like my journey is anything to be ashamed of. It's the journey. And if I can help anyone or inspire anyone by sharing what I've been through, this is a big old smile on my face. I love my life. I truly do. I don't have tons of money in the bank, but that is not my life. And if I can share anything, what my sister was a addict. My ex-husband was an addict. They're no longer here. I am still here and healthy as hell. And so, I have I'm not embarrassed about anything that I've been through. No, 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 no. I give thanks for the lessons. I give thanks for the beautiful journey. I know one day I will cease to exist in this form. But I pray that the level of consciousness is so elevated that as I return and take on new form, as this energy takes on new form, it's 1,000 times better. And that's sort of the way that I look at it, and I'm not changing that.
I think it just gives people so much permission to kind of let go of that attachment to the stories that they're holding on to, that maybe they're feeling shame around, or that, their life wasn't as perfect as they would have liked it to be.
Well, who's perfect? Who has a perfect experience? I don't know how you learn anything if from day one it's just perfect. And what is perfect? What is that? What is it?
Right.
As it pertains especially to the human species. I believe that we could do better as a species. I believe that we could understand our oneness and the fact that we share a planet. We are not the only species on the planet. We merely stand upright and speak these words out of our mouths, but we are not the only ones here to share this planet. So to me, it's embracing the whole, which is love to me. Anyway, I don't even know if you asked me that.
No, I love it
That's
when
a
you
perfect answer.
just preach.
Yeah. And I feel like we are missing the voice of postmenopausal women who are in these powerful years and celebrating that and celebrating the transition. It's similar to going through puberty. It's like it's still pathologized. I was given birth control the minute, I had a period, because it's like, oops, something you got to control, something you got to fix. And instead of it being this, celebrated entrance into adulthood. And they say that, what happens to a postmenopausal brain is that a woman becomes talk about her wise years, her ability to control her emotions, where maybe in motherhood years and early motherhood years, you have to be able to empathize in a way, and your biology has to mirror that of your children. But as you get older and you get out of those years, those childbearing years, then your brain shifts and you really become that wise woman. And part of, all of these hormonal shifts are really important to becoming that and celebrating that. So I'm sure when you were going through menopause, it was not a topic of conversation, probably something no one was, discussing, talking about. I guess what was your experience? And as a postmenopausal woman, what is your experience now on the other side?
When I went through menopause, I was a flight attendant at the time, and it was a discovery period for me, because I was practicing a plant-based lifestyle, and I would pay attention to where my body was when I ingested certain things. For instance, if I tasted anything that was alcoholic, I would have a temperature rise. Every takeoff and every landing, a temperature would spike. If I ate cooked food, my temperature would spike. If I ate sugar, I don't care what kind of sugar. Maple syrup that's what I was using at the time, was maple syrup rather than refined sugar, because I was massively addicted to sugar. But I would always have a spike in my temperature. I noticed also that living a plant-based lifestyle that whole menopausal process was rapid. It did not last long at all. But I was also able to share with others everything that I began to recognize would make me uncomfortable, because it wasn't hard for me to go through menopause. It was just that temperature spike. That was always strange. That was the strangest part of it. But once I understood, man, you eat some sugar, I stayed away from the sugar. I stayed away from the maple syrup. I stayed away from alcoholic beverages. I stayed away from all of those kind of things. And at that point, I was dealing with every takeoff and landing. But I wasn't suffering with that spike. But like I'm saying, it was so rapid and it was so easy. And I always attributed that to a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so I learned from that. It brought me here, but I learned a great lesson from that. So thank God for menopause.
I have sort of a funny question for you, or a weird question. I really want you to define your decades, because I think as someone like as light and bright and beautiful as you are in your 70s, like I want to know.
Define my decades.
Yeah, it's so hard when you're in your decade to like look to like even think what it's going to be about. But yeah, like your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, you've got decades to define. Like
wow, it's weird what a question, little girl. I and there are things that I've really learned, because it seems like every decade I was marrying a new dude, right? It was a new husband.
new lessons.
Hey, it was like, I don't know, each one of those experiences too, I learned so much. And now, say for instance, if I had the knowledge at age 20 that I have now, I would have chosen my mates quite differently, or should I say mate quite differently. Probably would not have been 4 of them. You understand what I'm saying? Because I began to understand through that journey how important it was to understand me and the importance of loving me first. I mean, and I mean, I would hook up with somebody and be like, they liked me. You want to get married? That was how simple it was for me.
Yeah.
I hooked up with a man that was selling crack cocaine. That's how I wound up using that stuff. That only lasted, what, 8, 9 months, I think. But it was an experience. The person that I married because I needed to have a hernia surgery, he was horrible. But but that only lasted, I think, we didn't even make it to 6 months, but I was able to get the hernia surgery. We were selling cocaine rocks to make a living. I had moved on from work being a flight attendant. But I think
This is in your 30s?
this is like in my 30s, yes, in my 30s. And it was really learning to love self and understanding that I am number one in my journey, in my human experience, and learning how to take care and nurture me. And I didn't know any of that until, wow, now I can't even believe I'm almost 74. But I really do have this down pat now, and I can reel it in. When I'm feeling strange, I can take the deep breath and be like, okay, calm it down. It's okay. This too shall pass.
That's what I was going to say. It sounds like every decade was just kind of getting closer and closer to self-love.
Yeah.
And so what do you think you're going to say about your 70s? Did you just get closer and closer, or are you there and now there's like a new chapter?
I'm just so excited about this part of the journey. Think about it, ladies. If I'm 74, in 26 years, I would be 100. Yeah? Is that right? Is that math about right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are not a lot of us who maintain on the planet in this human form at 100 years old. I could be one of them, maybe not. None of that really is important to me. What's important is how beautiful the journey is each and every second that I do exist. What's important to me is being able to, unless I'm in some tragic accident or something like that, but if I have control over me, is caring for me and loving me to prove to the intelligence how appreciative I am for this beautiful gift of life. And so I'm just looking forward to each and every moment of each and every day and loving my moments. My daughter came and visited with me from Colorado, and I've enjoyed her so much. I don't have a problem hanging out by myself. I really, really am a good friend to me. And I thought I don't need anybody because Ron lives in his apartment, I live in mine, and we're good like that. But I've really enjoyed her company. So that says to me, Babette, sometimes you do want to have some company. Don't act like you just don't need company at all. I've really, really enjoyed her. So each and every moment is a gift. And I'm happy about that gift. And I don't have a lot of teary moments. I don't. And I look forward to each and every day, what experience I'm going to have for today or tomorrow. And, yeah.
Can I ask you, like, what does your relationship look like now? You said you have your own apartments, because I heard this stat somewhere that said that men who are married live longer than men who are unmarried, but women who are married live shorter than women who are unmarried.
That sounds
And,
right.
it's just something I think about. And so curious what your setup is. And
Found the best of both worlds.
yeah. And how often do you guys get together? Or do you see each other every day? Or, how does it work?
We pretty much see each other every day. We have a restaurant together. There's an apartment, and he's a musician. So he has a studio over there. And so after closing hours, he's hanging out in the studio. When I'm waking up, he's going to bed. Okay? Because he's a musician. So check it out. Hang out over there. And I keep my house differently than he keeps it. That right there is a hot mess. He don't care. I don't live like that. And so if we can, and I don't want to be married to anybody else. I'm not interested in that. I'm past that. He's number 4. As we will ride this out together. But I'm allowed to have my space and my time. I'm allowed, and he is allowed to do himself. And it has nothing to do with our love for each other. He's my family. I've been married to him since 1992. Met him in 1990. So I'm not, we're not talking about kicking each other to the curb, but I get to have it my way.
You get to let each other live.
Yes, because we're
still get to
too.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. But still be together, but have your space to be yourself.
Now, there may come a time that we live in the same place, but trust, he will have to have his own bedroom.
I get that. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I actually have a fair amount of single girlfriends. And I think it's harder than ever to date with the kind of state of technology and dating apps where you judge people on criteria that, like, I don't know if I would have chosen my husband if I were looking at his profile. Honestly, when I met him, I wasn't thinking about, all the things that you have to fill out. And it was like in the moment. And I fell in love very quickly and instantly, and like in a way that you can't on an app. And so I think it requires you to dissect your partner or potential partner in a way that just feels really unnatural. And I tell my friends, I'm like, look, I've been with my now husband for 13 years. And I think like the stuff that is hard, the stuff that we go through, it's like there is no relationship on the planet. It's like what you were saying, Babette. It's like nobody gets out of here unscathed, right? It's like, but we face these issues together, and the togetherness is in facing the problems, even when we disagree. And I feel like people who are dating right now, it's like we're still after that perfect, because you're trying to create a perfect profile. You're trying to create a perfect, like, this is who I am, look how great I am. And it's like that's not what any of us actually want. We want partnership. Like, you sound like you still have such partnership in your life.
We're friends. I mean, he's family.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not perfect.
Yeah. It's just what it is. And
It's just what it is.
sometimes, even though we never lay hands on each other, if I could bust that nose, I would.
Yes. Me too.
I can go home. I can just
Even those,
I'm with you.
but even those challenging moments, they're often holding up a mirror for us, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, you just named it. Yeah, that's it. That's it. We're mirror images. We are. You said it.
And they're showing us, it's just like those moments that you talked about throughout your life that were hard, but that they've shaped you, and you've chosen to move through them, and you've chosen to grow from them. And I think that that's the same in relationships, where you can let something like define you or define a situation, or you can use it as a way to grow. And I think life is always asking us to level up.
Yeah, you're right. That's beautifully said. Serious.
I think given, that Whitney and I are on this mission to help people transform their lives through the power of food as medicine, and specifically plants as medicine. Whitney and I are not vegan. We eat whatever we want, but it is a diet predominantly based on plants is what transformed our lives. Like, well, let me back up before I ask you the question. We talk a lot about body intelligence, and body intelligence is exactly what it sounds like, but the way we kind of define it is it's building a body that you get to listen to. It's like you should be your own guiding light when it comes to your own health, when it comes to what you eat. And the minute we outsource that and start saying, well, this is what's trending, which right now is a lot of protein and animal-based proteins, like, which I'm sure you've seen. How do you keep steady in your body intelligence? Like, because trends are hard not to kind of like listen to and, let them seep in and dictate your behavior. So how do you kind of stay steady?
I have a belief. First of all, I understand that I have been able to nourish myself. I just got a primary care physician last week or the week before last. I didn't even have one. I'm on no medication. And I've been able to care for myself through a plant-based lifestyle. And so for me, I know that I am in really amazing health, physically and emotionally, by living the lifestyle that I've chosen. Also, because I believe in the oneness, I know that I do not have to, and I don't mean this to be cruel, but I don't have to end the life of another species to nourish myself. So I choose not to. It's just a matter of choice. I don't care for the way humans have now decided to slaughter animals or to just factory farming. I don't believe in it. I don't like it. I think it's cruel the way that we treat animals for us to ingest. And I don't know if it's sustainable. So with all of that knowledge, I embrace what I have done since 1990, and I will continue to embrace that lifestyle. It works for me.
What did you
What
have
do
for
you-
breakfast this morning? Were you going to ask the same
You
question, Whitney?
ladies would not ask me that today. I'm going to share this with you because I am not running 100. My daughter's laughing. She's laughing. She's laughing because I just learned how to. What? She said they're going to see you in a different light. Normally, I start my days with smoothies and juice. Okay, but I was determined to learn how to make oyster mushrooms taste like fried chicken. Now, I did not stop eating fried chicken because I did not like fried chicken. Okay. And I've been wanting those oyster mushrooms battered up and fried like chicken. And so
Sounds
I bought a
delicious.
bunch. Oh my God. I bought a bunch of them yesterday, took them to work, shared them with the employees. I did not tell my husband because he would have been all over me about the unbleached flour that I got. He would have been so upset with that. So he did not get to eat any of those. But I saved some for my daughter. And so when I got up this morning, I said to her, "You want me to make those mushrooms this morning?" She said, "Yep." And we ate fried mushrooms for breakfast. I never
Oh
eat
my
like that.
gosh.
Never eat like that. But she said, "You guys are going to see me in a different light."
That's so
But yes,
funny.
so
It sounds
that's how I started.
delicious.
Well, I started my day today, but mostly it's juice or smoothie. But it was
Good.
fun.
We're not about being perfect, right?
Hey.
So
No such thing. You know,
Nobody-
our
I don't know.
motto is eat clean, play dirty, Babette, which I feel like
Now,
you
one
live.
was 100. That's what I did. It was awesome. It was so delicious. Anyway.
joy is a nutrient.
Joy is a nutrient. I've been really into juicing again. I got out of it for a long time, but I've been really into it.
lifesaver.
There is nothing more. I don't know. I feel so energized when I have like a
Yes, you
fresh
do.
juice. I've been really into
Yeah.
carrot juice lately.
Sweetheart,
I'm in the
it
sun a
reaches
lot.
The
It's just
nutrients
so
reach
good.
the cellular levels immediately. There's nothing to digest. It's pre-digested for you. So, yeah, that's why juicing is the lick. And at my age, nutrients at the top of the list. Come on. I got to put
Right.
nutrition at the top. That's very important. So,
For all of us. And I think that's the problem with some of these kind of nutrition trends is that, the minute you start to look at food as only one thing, like this food only equals carbs and this food only equals protein, it's like you lose the bigger picture and you're
Yeah.
so zoomed in that you lose the ability to figure out what to eat very quickly because you're so zoomed in. And no wonder people are so confused. It's like if you're only worried about a component of the food instead of the whole of the food.
You're right.
Yeah.
Right. And some people only think about protein. It's just that's the number one. It's the first question you're asked. Where do you get your protein? It's like
Yeah,
the
what do
number
you
one.
what do you
how do
respond
you
to
answer?
people when
just,
they ask you
I-
about that, or how do you
Hey.
get enough protein?
I obviously get enough.
That was a great answer. Don't I look good? I obviously get enough. I can plank longer than you.
Hey.
I get enough.
Hey, I obviously get enough, and I'm well. I'm not on medication. So life is good.
I'm gonna start asking people where they get their antioxidants.
I know. Huh?
Try that on.
Yes. I do a lot of sea moss, though. I'm in love with the sea moss. I do a lot of that. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
micronutrients.
I got to take this girl to the airport. Y'all
Yeah.
know that.
All right, we're gonna
Well-
ask you to do one last thing, which is called light work. which is going to be so easy for you, I know, but it is
Are you sure?
homework. Yes, it's homework for our listeners. There's already so much you gave in the conversation, but it's homework for us and our listeners on how to shine their brightest lights. So something they can do or practice, try.
A light work, how to shine the brightest light. Really? Y'all?
Yeah, it can
y'all
be a
do-
challenge. It could be a practice that you do that you'd like other people
You
to
know-
try on.
Maybe
know
the
that'd be the
recipe
most-
for fried mushrooms.
The most important thing for any of us to do is to stay current. That's going to give you the best light ever, really. Not to live in the past and not jump so far in the future, and enjoy your now, because really and truly, that's the only time you got. Our hearts beat 1 second and flatline the next. That's how quickly we go. And so if you're blowing off your moments, those are gifts. Each and every second of this thing called life is a gift. It's a blessing. Don't blow them off living in the past. Come forward.
So good.
It's so good. It really is good to your listeners. Because I know people will say, well, you just act. No, I'm telling you, I know how to reel it in. I have my moments like everybody else. But I appreciate this gift of life so much. It's like, no, I am not getting ready to lose another second thinking about something dumb. No, I'm not. I'm embracing it. I'm embracing my now. Thank you. Thank you for this gift. So that's all I got.
Thank you for the gift of this conversation. I'm so
Thanks
grateful.
for having me.